This is the Commonwealth, where we feature creators of disruptive change. For this episode, we are talking with Kelly Ross. Kelly is the founder of Echo Collective and its founding program called the Refinery. The Refinery provides refugee and immigrant women the opportunity to achieve economic independence through business education. Mm-hmm. Kelly, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So we were kind of talking about this before turning the mics on of how we can really get into like the nitty gritty of the story behind the Refinery. But I think to start with, I'm curious on how you started this program. How did you get into helping immigrant and refugee women?
Sure. It's a long story, but I'll shorten it a little bit.
Okay.
So I was about to graduate from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, had no idea what I wanted to do.
Okay.
And I volunteered for a family literacy program here in Lincoln, which teaches adults English as a second language. And the second I finished that first class, I knew I wanted to work with people who are from different countries and who are trying to rebuild their lives here in the United States. And so that started my path of working with this community. And so I was an immigration paralegal. I was a social worker. I did a citizenship preparation program. And of course, I taught English as a second language. And it's the dream job because these people are remarkable. But through it, I noticed there are so many barriers that they face that are unique to them. They're unique to people who are new to the United States and are learning English. And I primarily was working with women. And so one of the biggest barriers I noticed was the fact that they had different skills and talents and services they could provide, but they had no way to monetize them and no way to use those talents to improve the lives of their families. And they wanted to do so. And every time I'd say, you should sell this, or you should bring this out in the market, they'd say, you know what, like I'm still learning English. I have nowhere for my kids to go to daycare. I'm not confident enough in myself. And so that's where our program, The Refinery, was born to mitigate those challenges.
So I love the passion. What about immigrants and refugees inspires you so much?
You know, I have thought of this question many times.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's from myself having experiences where I felt like I didn't belong. Mm-hmm. I feel like I didn't have a community. I feel like I didn't have people who were there to support me. And I see that in them. And so it's almost selfishly therapeutic for me because I'm healing my past heartbreak by helping them with theirs. But at the same time, they're so kind and witty and funny and enterprising, and they'll give you the shirt off their back, no questions asked, and it's hard not to fall in love with people like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you speak a second or third language yourself?
I do have a degree in Spanish.
Oh, okay. So yes, yeah.
So sort of.
Okay.
And then I can speak just a little bit of like Kurdish and Arabic and languages that I'm around a lot.
Okay. Mm-hmm. By like a little bit like conversational or like
as in I know what's going on.
Okay.
But I could not hold up my end of the conversation. I can like say greetings and thank you and things like that. Yeah.
You mentioned the women you work with having like having the skills and talents. What is there a like type of skills, like a type of skill set, or is it like unique to the individual?
It's very unique to the individual, but you will see a lot of women with remarkable talents in the maker field. So they are able to make very high quality products very quickly, and they have a very interesting insight into the design of their products, which speaks to the culture that they're coming from and then what they've picked up on from American culture. But you can see it with everything. You can see a woman who wants to start a cleaning company and go into folks' houses and clean for them. You can see it in a woman who wants to start a daycare, or you can see it in a woman who knits and crochets, for example. So it's all over the map.
Yeah, and how does someone typically like engage with your program, or is it like do you engage with the individuals, or how does that normally work?
Sure. So our first cohort, I knew a lot of the women that joined. And then we had a couple referrals. We had one referral from Lincoln Literacy, thank you.
Yeah.
And one referral from the Asian Center, thank you. But we're basically referral based because we are looking for that woman that's still learning English, is from a different country, and really blooms where she's planted. So that woman that no matter what she's doing, she's giving 150%. And women like that really stick out because they've left so much behind in their home country, and a lot of times it was ripped from them terribly. And so when they're moving here and they're working 40 hours a week like at a fast food establishment, and they're giving it their all, and everyone has raving reviews of the job they do at a fast food restaurant, it shows that she blooms where she's planted. She gives her everything to what she does, and we're looking for those type of women.
Yes, yeah. The women you work with, do they come from like all parts of the world, or is there a specific like region or country that they typically are from?
Lincoln has maybe 6 to 8 primary cultural groups that come in as refugee and immigrants, and so they pull from those groups. And I'd hate to leave anyone out, but we have Vietnamese, Chinese, Karen, Middle Eastern, a lot of Iraqi Kurds, Iraqi Arabs, Yazidi, and then we have quite a few people from Latin America as well. Not to lump that huge area into one group,
most definitely.
But it really, we have a lot of Mexicans, Guatemalans, but then one or two from all the other countries that make up that big expanse of Latin America. So that's typically who we see. And then in Africa, we have Sudanese and Congolese primarily.
Okay. And how many cohorts have gone through the program?
Just one.
Okay. And so when did that first one start?
September. And then they graduated in December of 2020.
And then when's the next one? Like, has the second one already started, or are you like fielding applications? Or
so right now we're recruiting. So we have 3 entrepreneurs confirmed. We start the first week of May, and they'll graduate in August.
Yeah, and how did the first one go?
It went really, really well.
Okay.
It was actually within the first week. I remember going out and sitting in my car and having this feeling like this program had already grown bigger than me. Like it had grown into something that I never thought it could be, and it had been 3 classes. And I thought to myself, hold on. Hold on. This program's going to change lives, and I'm going to do my best to push it along, but we got to get the community in here because it's going to take all hands on deck. What
made you have that feeling? Was there anything in particular, or like one specific story?
So the first day, it was in September. Okay. And usually September in Lincoln, Nebraska is warm, right? Warm and sunny and starting to become fall. Well, it was cold and it was rainy and it was windy. And I thought to myself, I really hope they show up. And so I made my way in, my umbrella snapped inside out, and everyone showed up, but they were timid, they were shy, they were scared, they were nervous, just a lot of energy like that. And within 1 week, they were relaxed. I would end class and they just wouldn't move. They'd just hang out there and we'd all chat for a while. I could tell there was no place they'd rather be, and they felt like they were welcome here within 3 classes. And they knew that they could be businesswomen after 3 classes. And I think that's what made me feel like this program has so much power to change lives.
And what do you think caused that shift, going from like the timidness to like feeling empowered?
So I think one big aspect is I facilitate this program, and I'm the executive director of the nonprofit, but we need the community, because when these women come here, they don't have community. They're completely stripped of their social network. And so they need to meet more people, and they need to meet people who are woven into the fabric of the community, people who can connect them to new opportunities. And so when I started the Refinery, I made it a community-driven curriculum, which means that I bring in, like last cohort, I brought in 15 different business women from around the community to talk about, either their experience as a businesswoman or something specific related to business, like marketing or product photography or
communications. I saw Liz Ring Carlson, who's the director of communications for Emeritus.
Sure.
And she spoke. I was like, all right, that's a good person to speak.
Yeah, she came in to talk about dreaming big.
Okay. How is it with all of the different members and people you work with coming from different communities and different regions of the world? How is that dynamic when they start working together and like building a community among themselves?
Primarily I do set a precedent in how I behave, and I'm very clear with, we are all women and we all have the same goal. And even though we speak different languages and we look different and we may dress different, we are all human beings. And I consciously set that precedent, but there are so many days where I wonder if I even need to, because these women are so open-hearted, and some of the friction that you might think between specific cultures that historically have had very terrible and violent relationships, they have no problems working together. They're laughing together. They're trading secrets and recipes together. And so I think that's something that maybe we're taking in opposing onto the situation, because I've never seen that happen.
Well, that's inspiring to hear.
Yeah.
And it definitely caught myself imposing on in that situation, because from the outside you would think it would, because a lot of the regions you mentioned, there's a bunch of conflict and
exactly.
Kelly, I'm very interested. You mentioned the challenges these women face when entering into the community. Can you kind of walk us through and elaborate on what some of those are?
Sure.
Yeah.
So if I'm speaking from the standpoint of, let's say, a refugee, and so they come in, and of course they come in with literally nothing. They don't have anything, and the government gives them a certain amount of money to buy everything that they need, you know, down to toiletries, up to furniture.
I have a really dumb question.
Sure.
So our government gives them money just as a and how do they how does that, what's the actual process of being a refugee? So you decide to leave whatever country, and do you, how's that work?
Sure. So it's through the United Nations. And so you're registered with the United Nations, and then the United Nations works with different countries in order to place refugees. And the last time I checked, the United States only takes 2% of the world's refugees. And so a lot of people think that, you know, we're taking in tons of refugees, even back when President Obama was in office. And I think the cap was maybe 80,000. Check everything I'm saying. Check your facts. But that seemed like so many refugees. But, you know, we hardly take any of the refugees in the world. And so after they're registered with the UN, then they would communicate with different countries, and then the United States would issue them a green card, do their interviews, and then bring them in.
And then how are they placed in Lincoln, Nebraska? Is it because I know this whole thing is it's a politically charged discussion that sometimes it's difficult to cut through the noise and really learn about what's happening. So why, how are they ended up placed in Nebraska?
Sure. That's a great question, and it's not one that I really have the answers to.
Okay.
So I know there were several years where Lincoln was designated a refugee-friendly city by the U.S. government, which means that our economy was ripe for accepting refugees, and we had a lot of jobs that could bring them in. We had the infrastructure in terms of resettlement agencies. We have 2 here in Lincoln that could help them adjust to their new lives in the United States. But beyond that, I really don't know.
So once they're here, what are the challenges that you see them face?
Well, the majority of them have to learn English, and even if they do speak a little English, it's not usually enough. And so the first thing that they have to do is they have to make money for their families, and so they have to get a job, and so they have to figure out how to apply for a job in the United States, never having done so before. And so the different resettlement agencies we have here in town, they help them with that. And then after they get a job, they get their kids in school, and usually it's the male head of household who focuses on getting the job.
Okay.
And then they get their kids in school, and then the wife, traditionally, or the female head of household, traditionally, she is expected to cook and clean and take care of the kids, and she shoulders the majority of that. And then if they need more income, which almost always they do, because they're working on minimum wage, and minimum wage is not enough for a family, even with 2 kids, let alone 5 when they're coming in. So she has to get a job as well. So she is doing all of these things, making minimum wage, and we can do better for the women that are coming in as refugees.
Most definitely, especially if they have the skills and talents, which
Exactly,
you mentioned earlier.
right.
Yeah. What are some of like the minimum wage jobs to help me kind of like, I guess, better picture what's like the situation?
Yeah. So you see a lot of immigrants and refugees go into food service, or we have a really great industrial sector. So a lot of factories here in Lincoln where they train on the job.
Okay.
And you see some like in janitorial staff as well. So different jobs where they can learn on the fly, or things that they already know how to do, like cook and clean, and different basic skills that we already have as adults. So,
yes, yeah. So when they are, I guess, isolated as someone with entrepreneurial talents and then connected with you, what did that first cohort, the programming, and you, we kind of already touched on like the different mentors brought in, but what are some of the first things that you teach them or present to them, or education you provide to them?
Yeah, so we have 3 primary blocks. So the first block is all about the soft skill of believing in yourself.
Okay.
Because if you don't believe in yourself, you're not going to succeed. That's just how it is. And so a lot of these women do come from patriarchal countries where they are taught that they are lesser than. And so for them, embarking on any type of entrepreneurial journey is exciting and also extremely terrifying, because they don't have people cheerleading them in the background saying you can do it. And so first we talk about, dreaming big, overcoming obstacles, stress management, different things like that. And then we get into writing a business plan, doing a lot of marketing things in our next section. And then we finish it out with a financial section. So we talk about budgets and what basic business accounting looks like, registering with the Department of Revenue, all of those different things. Yeah.
So the second 2, I would have, I guess, kind of guessed coming into this that like it's more like a traditional entrepreneurial class, if you will.
Sure.
But the dreaming big, I'm really fascinated on that. What is there anything that really resonates with the members that like, what was there anything, was there any one thing in particular, or was it like, did different things resonate with different people, or how did that go?
What you hear a lot is when you ask them, what do you want? They'll say, I want my children to be happy. I want my children to be healthy. I want my children to be safe. And then you ask, what do you want for you? And they say, no one's ever asked me that before. And so it's a difficult lesson, because a lot of times they don't have the answers. And so it's really a lesson on how to dream big, how to dream for yourself, because they were never given the opportunity to do that.
Yeah. What is that lesson? What's the like Wikipedia about section of like, how do you do that?
So as I mentioned, we do bring a speaker to come in and talk about dreaming big.
Okay.
But this is a really hard question. I'm trying to think back over the curriculum of what exactly we cover. But
and especially Liz would be a good person to talk to about this.
Yeah. Yeah, she's very accomplished. She's definitely achieved some of her dreams.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah.
And is there like a light bulb situation, or is it not as dramatic?
It's not quite as dramatic. It's more like we're planting a lot of seeds, and then over the cohort, you start to see things sprout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would some of the biggest success stories from that first cohort be?
So I love to talk about Sakina. She's from Afghanistan. and she wanted to open a tailoring business because that's what she did back in Afghanistan, and she has that talent in her family. And so she came in, and she had already donated, I think, like 300 masks to the community. And so she wanted to monetize her mask making. And so we started out with her, and, you know, she's at a point now where people are communicating with her all the time about custom orders. Like, you know, I need a new table runner for my front hallway. Can you do that? Of course she can do that. Or I need a Christmas stocking to finish out a set because we have someone new in the family. Can you do that? Of course she can do that. So it's really exciting to see this broaden. And actually yesterday we ordered her tags to sew on to all of her products. And so seeing those little steps that she's making is so rewarding as she's building her business into something that can add to her family.
I have no clue how to make a mask or do anything that you just listed. But I would guess eventually it would grow to a point where she needs to hire people to help, and it's kind of like a loop of the community. So how many were in that first cohort, did you mention? 6. And what, could you even just run me through of like this sector of business they were in? So the first was like a tailoring company. What were the other 5?
Sure. And then Cecilia from Mexico, she crochets and knits.
Okay.
A bunch of different things. And then we had Olga and Katya, they're from Mexico, and they create artisanal gelatin, which is like gorgeous Jell-O that tastes amazing and you eat. It's the coolest thing ever. You should look them up.
Okay.
And then we had Shahristan from Iraq, and she imports dresses made in Turkey and Iraq that are specifically for Yazidi women when they're going to weddings, because they dress up in gold and high heels and completely gorgeous, and we have nothing like that here.
Yeah, I can believe that. That's amazing.
And then the last business we had is Shadia, and she's from Sudan, and she has an event design business, so weddings, baby showers.
Okay. Yeah. And going back to your earlier point of like they already have the skills and just like monetizing and applying them into our culture seems like such a straightforward, like all of those sound like for real businesses, like very straightforward, like there is a customer and you have the skill set to provide a product or service to them. Do you think that will be like a typical cohort based on the like connections and based on the connections that have kind of been sent your way, or are you hoping to like go into other sectors or whatnot?
In terms of like what jobs or like what types of businesses?
What types of businesses?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I anticipate we'll always have someone doing food because as we all know, you know, food from around the world is awesome. So, and Lincolnites want it and need it. So always we'll have someone doing food. I imagine we'll always have a maker, someone who's doing something with their hands.
Okay.
And then I anticipate we will have someone who's doing import wholesale and selling retail here to some extent.
Okay.
So that actually is what we have the first 3 women confirmed for the second cohort in May. Those are the 3 different industries that we have. Okay. So they're all different. Every business is different. Every business is going to serve the needs of a different customer. And so, you know, I'm never worried about replicating a business or bringing in a business that's exactly like the one that we just had in a previous cohort. So.
Okay, absolutely. Makes sense. So Kelly, question for you. It seems like you had a very clear vision of what you wanted to accomplish with this. And when you were working to build that, was there ever a time that you felt frustrated or I guess just down on the idea? And was there a piece of advice someone gave you or a situation you were in that re-inspired you to keep on like pursuing that vision?
So I have actually never doubted what I'm doing.
Okay. Okay.
I know. I have never doubted what I'm doing. I would do this for free. I would prefer not to do it for free, but I would do this for free because I love these women more than anything. And I see the success that they have in this program. But I have struggled for sure in the entrepreneurial side of starting a nonprofit. So all of the different hats I have to wear. and thinking to myself, looking at all the other nonprofit leaders here in Lincoln and thinking, am I one of them? I don't know. I don't know if I'm one of them.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm educated enough, or if I have had enough experience. And everyone always tells me, stop. You're great. You have the passion. You learn as you go. No one has it fully figured out. And so I've had a lot of people reassure me that I belong in the nonprofit leadership world. And it is a very welcoming space. And so that is one thing that I have doubted. I've never doubted what I'm doing or who I'm helping, but I've doubted, myself. Am I good enough to be doing this with these women?
Yes.
So,
yeah. And is that an ongoing thing for you, or has that kind of been resolved as mentors and connections say, no, like you do belong?
It has been resolved. There are certain subjects like finances that, like I'm a language person.
Okay.
I'm a people person. I'm not a numbers person. And so there are definitely times when I'm looking over numbers and I'm working with our treasurer, and it's just like completely over my head, which is again, like why you have to build a really good team around you, because I'm not great at everything. So I need different experts, the whole mastermind concept from Napoleon Hill. So I need those other people around me that keep me accountable. And so there definitely are times where I'm working on something where it's like, I'm not good at this. I need someone to step alongside me, but I have people there who will step alongside me, which is amazing.
Yes. So I won't grill you too much on the finances with not being a finance person, but
don't traumatize me.
Yeah. So it is, it being a nonprofit, it's also, it must be supported by some entity in the community. Is that like corporate sponsors, or is it personal donors? What does that generally look like?
Yeah, so right now we're supported by private individual donors.
Okay.
And then we just received our nonprofit status from the IRS in February.
Okay,
so that opened us,
congratulations.
thank you,
Yes.
to apply for a lot of local grants. And so we're in the application process for a lot of grants, but those individual donors have been with us since May of last year, Give to Lincoln Day of last year in May.
Wow.
2020. And they raised like $5,000 for us when this was just an idea. And so I am so thankful for the people who believe in the refinery. They believe in these women in our community, because they have sustained this program so far, because we're, as I said, we're still applying for grants. So
yes, yeah. ECHO is the nonprofit behind the refinery. What is the long-term vision behind all of this? And will ECHO launch other programs, or how do you see this playing out in the very largest picture you can think of?
Sure. So yeah, ECHO Collective, that's the nonprofit that I founded.
Okay.
But the refinery really took off, so that's why everyone knows us as the refinery, which is fine. But ECHO is an acronym, and it stands for Empowering Communities Through Her Opportunities. And the beautiful thing about this is we needed the refinery. I knew women who needed the refinery. I still know women who need the refinery, and that's why we started it, because I knew women who asked me for that service. And so I wasn't trying to reinvent the wheel. I don't want to do a program that someone else is already doing in Lincoln. And so I know other opportunities are going to come, and we're focusing on the refinery now, but I know our future is full of additional programs that are going to fill those little gaps that we see between the other community centers. So,
do you envision ever taking this beyond Lincoln, or is this does it only work on a community scale?
So I have every intention of, after maybe a year or maybe 4 cohorts, of taking the curriculum that I have written that is proprietary to the refinery and licensing it, and helping other communities, starting small, maybe we go into Seward, Crete, and helping them create small cohorts of their own to replicate what we're doing here. So I'm not going to be overseeing that. I'm going to license it and give feedback as much as I can. But I would like to see this concept spread through Nebraska, because I know there are so many communities that definitely need what we're doing.
Yes. Well, Kelly, it was wonderful to hear about all of your success. I wish you the best in the future. Yes. And it's inspiring to hear people like yourself. So,
thank you.
Yes. Thank you for listening to today's episode of The Commonwealth. If you enjoyed the episode, please tell your friends and leave a review. It really helps support the show. The Commonwealth is a product of KZUM Radio and Hurrdat Media. Hunter Bergman is our production assistant. Ashley Hansen does social media. Kyle Kua does editing. We release episodes every single Monday morning, so tap that follow button so you don't miss a beat.